So many people think Florida is absolutely perfect for reptiles, and that's almost true. But every now and again we get a cold snap, a hurricane, rainy day, and some of the animals that we keep don't necessarily appreciate that. So we've built shelters for them. And today's episode we're going to go in depth talking about the different shelters I have here at Kamp Kenan for my tortoises, lizards, and even some of my snakes. So I want to show you guys how you can make them, give you some ideas, show you what I've done, and pass on the knowledge. So, well, all the animals have a nice, comfy place to lay their head, including Petra.
A good portion of my life has been all about action, which still holds true. But now I pour all that time and energy into wildlife conservation, education, and the pursuit of knowledge. This is Kamp Kenan.
Alright, so that hurt. I've got Petra out here, and she's my female rock iguana. She laid eggs not too long ago in a recent video. You can go back and check that out. But she's coming along very nicely, and I wanted to start off by showing her and Petra's house, which they also share with some of the Greek tortoises. They're rhino iguanas, so they like it a little bit drier. But even like I said in the intro, guys, you know, Florida does get some nights that are just too cold for tropical species of lizards like the rhino iguana. They're from the island of Hispaniola down in the Caribbean, and they never see temperatures below 70 degrees. So when it gets below 70 degrees, I make sure that they're in here. And to be perfectly honest, most of the animals here at the camp learn to use these shelters. They're not so silly, not so stupid. People think reptiles aren't that intelligent, but as you guys know, we beg to differ here. Us reptile lovers know that they have a lot more intelligence than you think. So here's the construction, guys. It's pretty simple. I made a nice lid that I can get in and out of. I can clean it. And when needed, I actually have a little door that you can see right here. If I have to lock them in because it's a cold night, I just go ahead and shut this door like this and then place the latch like that. It was a little bit of an improvise, but it works. Also understand that this box is insulated. Very important. I insulate it because sometimes, you know, what they use it for in the summer is to stay cool, and in the winter I have a heating source that helps heat it up. Now, as far as that heating source, let me show you that. She's getting a peek right here of the outside world. Obviously, this sits on the outside of their enclosure. Some of the boxes are actually on the inside, as we'll see in a little while. But I just wanted to show you how I heat this particular one. I have what's called a Stansfield heating pad from Osborne Industries, and they come in various sizes. I like these because they're very durable. They call them pig blankets. They use them to warm livestock, but they just do so well for reptiles. I like to place them on a wall. Very rarely do I put them on the floor anymore. Two reasons. Down here in Florida we have fire ants. So if you put the heating element on the ground, it will attract the ants that are also from a tropical part of the world, and they'll make their nest around it because it's warm all the time. So I like to either put it on the wall, which I've done right here, or I like to put it on the roof. And as far as the roof, guys, you can see that it's also insulated here as well. So there you go, there's some insulation there. And this just makes things efficient in the winter. So I can use a low output heating source, but it still generates enough heat that the entire habitat is warmed. Yet, when the animals want to cool off, they can move further away from their heating element. That's very important. Guys, I've actually had some disastrous things happen with in my early years. Reptiles will die quicker from overheating than they will from being cool. And if you are in Florida or in the southern states, I can't stress enough that you just want to take the edge off the animal. You don't want to keep them super hot. You just want to keep them from getting too cold. So if you can just heat it enough to where they can maintain a body temperature that's comfortable for them, you don't have to make it a basking temperature, okay? So look at her, what a good girl. She'll be a new mom soon. I can't wait to show you guys the eggs. But what do you say we let her back in, rest, and we'll go look at some more of the other shelters that I have had constructed here at Kamp Kenan. You know them, you love them. It's Lola and Guapo, everybody. This is where they hang out on cold nights, and actually every night. They just walk in and out of here, no problem. Now, as you can see, I've raised this one up also. This one is up on stilts because sometimes when we get heavy rains, water would intrude into their shelter, and these guys don't like to be wet and swampy. So I built it up, and they walk right up the rocks, and they come on in here. And the first thing you'll notice about this enclosure, or excuse me, this shelter, is it's actually built out of aluminum. So it's aluminum square tubing, and it's got these special connectors, which makes the assembly really easy. You can just basically decide the dimensions you want it, cut the aluminum to fit, and then with these connectors, you can connect them together, and it's perfect. Guys, basically, these are just squares that are insulated and heated. You can see the Stansfield heating pad is on the roof on this one. It's also got the rigid insulation up top. Something that I think is pretty important to note out is what we call a passive heat barrier, and that's right here. If you come around front, you can look and see this black. This is just carpet runner from Home Depot that I cut into strips. And so what happens is they can walk in and out, but when the door is open on just regular days, the heat stays in and it makes it comfortable for them. And then on a really cold night when we get the odd freezing temperatures, I just shut this completely and I can lock them in with this hasp, and they're locked in and safe, and I don't have to worry about them coming outside getting too cold and then not being able to make it back in to warm up, because as you know, reptiles can do that. They'll sometimes wander too far away, and if it gets too cold, temperature drops too quickly, they won't make it back in, they can die. So there you have it. It's easy also. This one I like because I can spray it out when I need to clean it. You know, it's kind of waterproof material. This is some kind of board. I don't know what it's called, to be perfectly honest, but you can find this board at Home Depot, and it's a good way to finish it. So again, aluminum, some rigid insulation all around on the floor, on the roof, and in the walls, the passive heat barrier, and yeah, I like these. These were actually built for me, and I modified them. I put the roof material on this one because it still gets rain in here, and I didn't want it to seep in that way. But let's go check this out. I'm kind of excited. We're going to go on a mini tour of the iguana and lizard enclosure. Watch your step there. I'm going to shut this after you folks. From right over there, you can see that Slinky and Jackie have a very similar one to the other guys. They've knocked down most of their passive heat barrier, but I'll get to that. We have quite a few months before it gets cold here. But again, the same thing, yet a smaller door that I can easily get in on a step stool and kind of clean it out as I need to. Now we're going to show you something completely different. I'm going to show you a habitat, actually. And Tom, you might want to come this way because Slinky's coming out. And
I'm going back in for more shots.
Oh, you went back in for more shots?
Yeah,
I thought you were getting away from Slinky.
Well, that too.
All right. Well, we're going to go into the Timor python cage here after Tom gets some shots. Okay, now it's on to show you a completely different kind of construction. It was basically an experiment on my part, and this is for my snakes, the Timor pythons. So I'm going to come on in here, and I have to be careful because I got the little baby Darth Maul tortoises. There's 4 little baby Darth Mauls in here, aren't they beautiful? But I don't want to get sidetracked. Let's keep talking about shelter. Okay, so this particular shelter has no heat. It will eventually, I'll be able to put like a heating pad in it, but I want to show you this. I'm really psyched on this. This is actually 2 things. It's foam that I just found and glued to one of these. And I placed a PVC back on it. So guys, make friends with your buddies, or I guess if they're buddies, they're already friends. If you have any friends in construction or you go past construction sites, ask them if any of their scraps are available. They usually throw things like this away, but they can be so valuable. This is a PVC pipe. It doesn't rot. I turned it into what I like to think of as a log. It looks a little bit like a tree. So I took the foam and I glued it on, and then I went online and I found a place called the Hot Wire Foam Factory, and they sell tools that you can melt and cut away at the foam. And I saw some YouTube videos. We love YouTube, don't we? And these YouTube videos were cool because it teaches you kind of how to maybe make it look like stone, the foam, or you can make it look like tree bark. So what I did is I carved it all up, and then I took grout and made a slurry. I went to Home Depot, found some cement dye, and mixed it in with grout and painted it on with a paintbrush. And this is actually hardened over the foam. So what have I done? I've created something that I think, this is my first attempt. There are guys that are way more talented at it than me, but I created what I think of as like a little log. It's got a hole in it, right? But I made a lid as well. So here you can see the foam. Okay, so two things are happening here. This has now become aesthetically better than just foam on a PVC tube, but it's also insulating what's inside. So inside, I'm gonna reach in, it's much cooler on the inside. That's why they're in here right now, because it's midday. We've got our Timor pythons. How cool are these guys? Some Timor pythons. Let me get his head out here. I love these snakes. These snakes came to me from the Bronx Zoo, and I'm housing them here. But they're a beautiful snake. They're not even from the island of Timor. They are from Indonesia. They're found all over. They can be found on Flores, where you can also find Komodo dragons. So this is just a great python. Let's get it up here. I just wanted to move these guys out to have a larger enclosure as they're getting big. They get about 7 foot long. But I love this. This is just a pet project. I really can't wait till I have more time to really take this foam cutting and foam designing business to another level, because it's so much lighter to move around than actual cement, which you'll see in just a little bit that I use as well. But it's got a lid, PVC board back, very simple. If you peek in here, you can see the other snake. Can you guys see it? So the snake is wrapped up, and when you touch the snake, they're so much cooler than it is outside. So I know this is working. So in the winter, what I can do is I have a plug. I can plug it, and I'll have a little heater just a little heat pad, one of the ZooMed heating pads that I'm gonna fix to the back of this PVC wall. Shut this, and these guys are gonna stay nice and comfy. All right, I just really like this one. I don't know. We're gonna move on. Well, the snake's having fun too. We're gonna let it move on. We're gonna shut things up, and let's go see some other kind of enclosures that don't break the bank. So this one right here is a little special. As you guys can see, it's really not decorative at all. It is a matter of function. That's it. It's kind of out of the way. No one really sees it, but I felt it necessary to show you, because so many times I think we get so wound up like, oh God, does it have to be beautiful? No, it's got to be functional. Tortoises still slide under little caves and logs in the wild. This needs to perform the function. And this particular species, the mountain tortoise and the elongated tortoise, they don't require it to be extremely hot when they are, you know, just basically in the winter months. They can take cool temps. I just, like I said earlier, want to take the edge off. So basically cinder blocks. They're not even mortared together. They're placed on top of each other. Then I put a wood frame on top of that, and then this just lifts up, and you can kind of peek inside and see everybody. There's some ZooMed heating pads on the roof. The roof is insulated, and that keeps them just warm enough. Remember, it's about taking the edge off. If it gets too hot, that can be lethal for your animals. It's got an earth bottom. They love it. It's moist and humid in there, which this species loves, and quite simple. That's it, man. Again, didn't break the bank on this one. Just had some materials laying around and got it done. I like the least at camp. This is the one. I hate this job. It's simultaneously my favorite in shelter, but also my least favorite, just because it's kind of bad design. It's been built a little too low, and the drain that was set up doesn't work very well. So I have to get in here once a week or after a heavy rain, and I got to shop vac it out, and all the mud pours in it, and it's kind of a pain in the neck. So I would advise making sure you've really thought about drainage when you build these things. That being said, it's still a pretty awesome shelter, and I'll tell you why. This is all reclaimed concrete. This is all sidewalk from the town of Jupiter that they were going to throw away, and then I took a sledgehammer to most of it and made little bricks out of it. It was an incredible workout, but it was a free material. And I got the idea from my good buddy Mark Collette at Viewcrete, and you've seen him in the very first episode ever of Kamp Kenan. We built the Galapagos tortoise watering hole, and he's a genius when it comes to concrete. And so we made these incredible bunkers that I put doors on, They have their passive heat barriers. The Stansfield heating pad, it's a large one. It's hung from the roof by chain, and it heats this whole thing up when necessary, and then I spray foam insulated it. So this thing is probably where I'll go during a hurricane, to be perfectly honest with you. This isn't going anywhere. The problem is, it'd probably flood. So I have to be careful of the tortoises when we get some kind of flooding event. But other than that, this thing is durable. It was cheap because of the materials. They were free. And it's one of my favorites. But as you can see, I don't like cleaning it. So I'm going to go back under. Let me clean this out, and I'll show you the last shelter that I wanted to highlight today on this episode. See you in a minute. Oh, that last tortoise shelter almost kicked my butt cleaning it. However, the final one on the tour is for the B group of Sulcatas, and it's a basically it's just a square shed. Doesn't come up high at all. It's got a pitched roof. The one thing I wish I did, similar to the other one, is designed a little bit better. My carpentry skills are, well, they leave a lot to be desired. This is the thing, guys. Like, all this stuff that I've built, I've had to do from trial and error. I am not by any means a craftsman. Any real carpenter watching is going to see that. But I am extremely excited because this here is, I use Pythagorean theorem, okay, to get it perfectly square. And it actually took me half a day just to make it perfectly square, because in addition to my carpentry, my arithmetic is also a little dodgy at best. But anyway, it's the most perfect square I've ever made. I'm very happy about that. Anyway, it serves its purpose. So you've got a nice pitched roof. It's aluminum. It's got this cement board on the outside, which is waterproof and very durable. But look at this. Even the tortoises, when they lay against it, can crush it. We've got these swing up doors that can shut when I need to. And inside this shelter, in addition to the shelter being insulated, there is an oil-filled electric radiator that you can buy at any home improvement store, which I have barricaded off from the tortoises. They cannot get to it, and it just sits in there, and I keep it on low when the weather is bad. So there you have it, everybody. I mean, these are just some ideas you can have to build reptile enclosures. Now, if you live up north, remember, up north, you're going to need a little bit more heavy duty if you plan on keeping your animals outdoors. In fact, I would just bring them in, because you don't want to run the risk of losing power up north and your animals freezing to death over the cold, long winter nights. We are so far away from winter, as you can see by my dirty, sweaty self. I think it's time for a little lemonade. So I'm gonna go on inside. Hope this was an informative episode, but I'm dry. See you later.